When the artificial intelligence known as Frigg set out to free herself from her creator, a serial killer named Owen Hansen, things were already going to hell in a handbasket. And time was of the essence.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television, Duel to the Death, an Ali Reynolds series book number 13.
In color.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
All right, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. I am JW Blockchain Friedman.
I'm Chris 2.0 Collision.
And how's your Bitcoin wallet looking these days?
Fatly stacked, my friend. Fatly stacked.
Oof.
Full of conflict numbers, unfortunately, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
Which is troubling and possibly problematic. But, when I'm making it digitally rain, all is forgiven.
Me too. I love to log into Habbo Hotel and just toss digital bucks all over those penguins. So we're in advance. We already know we're going to get angry letters about this because I'm sure some of you out there are fans of cryptocurrency. And it turns out that's what this book is about to a degree. And I think both of us think it's a pretty silly idea. So just be prepared if you're the type of person who, invests in Bitcoin or whatever. We're going to have a little gentle mocking fun at your expense.
Yeah, I think that's fair from the show perspective. Let me unzip my show jumpsuit and just speak as pure me for a second. I do not care about cryptocurrency. Please do not talk to me about cryptocurrency. And I did not like this book. So if you feel judged as though I don't like cryptocurrency, no. What I did not like was Duel to the Death by J.A. Jance, not J.A. Vance, which I'm going to get wrong at least 300 times while recording.
Yeah, J.D. Vance is the guy who wrote the Hillbilly Elegy book that made everybody think weird things about the Appalachians.
Right.
But this is J.A. Jance, somebody completely different.
Hillbilly Elegy, the book that cogently answers the question, what if we talked about poor white people the way our racist society talks about black people?
Exactly. I will say, before we get started, while I also did not like this book, I also think cryptocurrency is hilarious, and the people who are into it, you do you, that's fine. The people who evangelize it are the most hilarious people in the world, or some of them. Because I feel like what we're talking about essentially is the digital equivalent of, say, baseball cards or Beanie Babies. And people who try to convince me that the world will eventually one day run on the basis of this economy, they make me laugh real hard.
Side note, Bitcoin Evangelist reminds me of the game that people used to play where they would come up with the most ludicrous Twitter bios imaginable, which were almost always sequences of 2-word phrases. So it'd be like, Bitcoin Evangelist, DevOps Ninja, Bourbon Bastard.
I was once in a taxi, and there was stickers all over the partition that said, "Ask me about Bitcoin." So I decided I was going to ask him about Bitcoin.
Oh, that's how they get you, Jay. It's the simplest tool.
Well, I had a very specific question. I know enough about Bitcoin to know that a Bitcoin transaction requires confirmations. Okay. And these take time. And depending on, the amount of them happening and the computing power behind them, it can take upwards to, 45 minutes to an hour before your transaction is fully processed. So my question was, how does this work paying you with Bitcoin in a taxi?
Right.
And are you just assuming that I'm operating in good faith when I leave? And his answer was basically yes.
Oh.
And this, folks, is why I think Bitcoin is hilarious.
Intriguing. Okay, so Bitcoin. We're going to talk for 1 hour about nothing but Bitcoin.
No, that's not true.
That's what we do on this show.
That's not true. What we are going to do is talk about the first novel we've ever read that could probably begin with a page that contains the single phrase, a Netflix original.
It strongly has that vibe. It also had the vibe to me of a middling episode of, say, Burn Notice or especially Criminal Minds.
Yeah, there's a lot of Criminal Minds, or what's the high-tech CSI one?
NCIS?
And there's this one that was specifically about hackers, and it only lasted one season.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it was CSI or NCIS. I know Jeb was really into it. Jeb Lund.
Right.
It was called, I think it was CSI Cyber.
Oh my God. Okay, so this podcast is over. We hope you really liked it, and I will be going to a completely legal site that provides things that weren't popular because I need to know about this.
Yeah, it lasted like 6 episodes, I think, maybe 7.
Dear God, was there hyper hacking the mainframe?
No, it was written by people who knew more about computers than mainstream CSI, which does put it ahead of this book in that category for sure. So,
was the theme song a reworked version of Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John called Let's Get Digital?
that would have been better. I don't remember what it was.
Let's get digital.
It was part of the CSI franchise, so I assume it was a Who song.
Oh, shit. Okay, so what Who song would it have been? Mama's Got a Squeeze Box? No. Only one answer is possible. Only one answer is acceptable, and that answer is Eminence Front.
Ooh, good call. Good call. And with that, I think we should try to explain to the audience what it is that we just read. So now we're going to play one of our songs.
Yes! Eminence Front!
No, plotted 60 seconds.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You got 60 seconds to give them a plot. Plotted 60 seconds.
So plotted 60 seconds is what it sounds like. Collision, you are going to have exactly 1 minute to attempt to describe to our audience what this book is about. Now, sometimes, scare quotes, you don't make it in 60 seconds.
You have never come closer to having a mostly empty can of cider bounced off your forehead, my friend.
And I just want to point out to the several angry people who have tweeted at us or emailed us about it, why do you call it plotted 60 seconds when he just keeps going after the 60 seconds? The reason this segment exists is so that people know we're talking about. We just decided to frame it as a funny game show segment. This is not a real contest. Get your thumbs out your ass. Laugh a little bit. Okay. So, are you ready?
No, because I need to say that you probably don't know this because she doesn't tweet at us or write us emails. But the person in my life who is angriest about my repeated failures to accomplish this task is, in fact, Noodles, my girlfriend. And I just want it clear, you don't know that, and that was not a comment to her. Hi, honey.
No. We've just gotten several well, why do they call it plot in 60 seconds when it's always 180 seconds long, letters? And
yeah, you know why? You know why? Because I'm an incompetent asshole, but I'm on the show and you're not. Ha ha.
It's literally because us making jokes about a book that you didn't know the plot of would be really weird and boring.
Right.
So this is what they call a device.
What?
And it's about to begin. Are you ready?
I'd like to, let's clear all the listeners out of the kitchen that we've invited them into.
Yes.
And then I'll be ready. I downloaded an algorithm, and I'm relatively sure that I can bring this one in 60 seconds.
Okay, and begin.
Computer security company programmer Stuart Ramey caused a serial killer to kill himself. But before that, the serial killer's hand-coded artificial intelligence helper and financial planner Frigg took herself offline and sent an email to Stuart saying, "Help me, you're my only hope," along with a ton of Bitcoin. But now he owes taxes. So he panics, and his boss, Ali Reynolds, a middle-aged business owner and former TV news anchor, adds another task to her to-do list of book flights for her husband, the partner in the firm, and teach Stuart how to drive. And that new to-do is supervise Stuart bringing Frigg back to life, but safely. Meanwhile, a drug cartel's financial planner, Graciela Miramar, the illegitimate daughter of the cartel's head, El Pescado, which is his name for stupid reasons, wants that AI on her side and she will kill to get it. She also lives with her mother and wishes she were dead, and wants to run the cartel, which would mean El Pescado needs to die. All that is established by like page 25, then nothing happens for 350 pages, then Frigg texts the DEA, they arrest El Pescado, Graciela, upset, kills herself, and Frigg decides to be not evil, the end.
Hooray. So, you didn't make it.
How close was I? How close was I?
You were pretty close, like 20 seconds over.
Okay, well, I mean, I stumbled a few times, and I wasn't deliberately trying to talk fast. So, if so VAR will show that, in fact, I did accomplish it with the necessary changes having been made.
Yeah, from now on, we'll refer to this as the collision rule, derisively during post-match commentary.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of this whole scenario, is that, once again, I know a few things about Bitcoin. I work in the software industry, folks, which means I'm surrounded by people who love to talk about cryptocurrency all the fucking time.
Same, except I work in a candy store, so people are always trying to talk to me about Bit-O-Honey all the fucking time.
But one thing I do know is that the value of Bitcoin fluctuates so much, like literally like sometimes $10,000 in a month.
Yeah.
That this entire scheme is hilarious because when everything is said and done, they could have put their lives on the line and invested like countless actual American dollars to obtain digital currency worth like $365.30. There's absolutely nothing that guarantees this is going to be a lot of money when they get it, because what he has essentially is a shit ton of Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is, if it ain't dollars, it don't make sense.
Basically, yes.
You guys will get that later.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, yes, there is a certain implausibility built in, and I would not say that the understanding of Bitcoin here is at a level greater than my own, and my own understanding of Bitcoin is holding steady at the has heard of it as a thing that exists plateau.
I disagree with that, but I'm going to save that for high points, low points a little bit. I think there's a slightly higher than normal understanding of certain aspects of it, just not the practical ones. And we'll get into that.
Wow, I guess J.W. Dark Web Friedman is going to...
Hey, look, if you want to know where I order my fake credit card numbers, at me. No, don't, please.
Is it Amazon? Can you buy that on Amazon?
Yeah.
Just
search for fake credit card numbers. Watch how long it takes before the cops show up.
Somebody knocks on your door.
Okay, so yeah, what we have here is a taut cyber thriller.
I disagree with every word you just said.
How would you describe this then?
I would describe this as a colossal disappointment. Let's tell the people how we came across this book.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point.
So we're recording this exceptionally late by our standards because I had some travel to do, and I was like kind of kvetching at our last recording session, like, oh, Jay, I don't know what we should read next. Nothing sounds fun. Everything is bleak and gray and dismal. And you had the idea, well, just go to the airport fucking bookstore and see what jumps out at you. And the clouds parted and a single ray of sunlight hit my forehead because that was the best idea I'd heard in I don't know how long. And then I'm at the bookstore. This book is bright red and yellow and orange, and I'm just going to read you a little bit of the back cover. After taking down the man responsible for his best friend's death, Stuart Ramey thinks the case is finally closed until he finds himself left with a multi-million-dollar fortune in bitcoins in a desperate bid by Frigg, a rogue AI program created by the killer to keep itself from being fully deactivated. Stu enlists the help of Ali Reynolds and the rest of his cybersecurity colleagues at High Noon Enterprises to take Frigg down for good. But they are not the only ones who know about Frigg's existence. I'm like, okay, this sounds all right. And then Graciela Miramar is an unassuming accountant by all appearances, but she is actually the right-hand woman to El Pescado, the leader of a dangerous drug cartel. She plans to take over his criminal underworld and become wealthy beyond her wildest dreams. But first, she needs Frigg's help, and there's nothing she won't do to get her hands on that AI. And I was like, this sounds amazing.
It sounds so incredibly stupid fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was so ready for an actual taut cyber thriller. Okay, you think that the cyber elements are passably done. That's fine.
I know.
I'm not going
to say
I'm not going to argue with that too hard, but I will say that taut and thriller, I was so let down. I honestly just kept sliding off this book. I have never fallen asleep during a book more. I have never gotten distracted by housework, Twitter beefs, group text arguments.
I'm not gonna lie, I sharpened every knife in the kitchen while reading this book.
So it's like a self-help book in a way.
Yeah. And now all of my kitchen knives are very sharp. Don't fuck with me.
Do not at Jay. Yeah, like did you? So you did kind of have that experience too, right? Like just finding this kind of difficult to get your hands into.
I had to set the tone, right? Like I had to I put on a Latin jazz playlist to keep things kind of boppy, in the background. I was like reclining, reading this, pouring my beer in a fancy glass. Like I really had to create a reading room experience to make this remotely pleasant, because otherwise, this is really, it's not well written. It's not really an interesting plot.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there. And I bounced off it really hard to the point where very rarely do I have to go back and reread pages to understand who said what. And I found myself doing that like at least once every 10 or 20 pages or so, because all the characters talk the same. They all kind of have... There's good guy motivations and there's bad guy motivations, and they all share them.
But you're like 300 pages in, and who the fuck is Cammy? And you flip back and like, oh, they introduced her on page 75, and I just forgot.
Yeah.
That's extremely the experience of this book. Yeah, we've talked about this before. This is an airport book, right? And airport books are competing with a very select set of other alternative entertainment options.
Yeah.
And I will just tell you, idly staring at someone else's seat back, display module and watching them watch like the Lego Movie 2 without subtitles is more entertaining than this book.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that are more entertaining than this book, like sharpening knives, for instance.
Sharpening knives, getting in Twitter arguments, texting your buddies dumb jokes that they don't like.
Listening to Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, which I did a little bit of.
Clipping your nails?
Yeah, clipping your nails. Oh, boy. So there's a style here, and that style is something I would describe as bad. And I think it's best illustrated by one of our characters, Shirley, who is the receptionist for the good guys, the white hat hackers, if you will.
High Noon Enterprises, because I think J.A. Vance, God damn it, I knew I'd do it. J.A. Jance, I think is a bit of a Western fan.
Yeah, and the white hat, black hat thing. You
know.
So, this character, Shirley, she has a very briefly described backstory where she loses everything, has to get a new job in her 50s, and the only place that will hire her is High Noon.
Right.
So she becomes the receptionist / Jill of all trades, and does a bunch of stuff there.
The kind of office personality that I hope if you work in an office, you both have and are deeply kind to, because they tend to work insanely hard, are extremely competent, and just make the whole place go.
And no one notices them, which is unfair.
Yeah.
But she's living with her mother in a mobile home, which leads to this sentence. Shirley didn't like mobile homes, and she didn't much care for cats either, but it beat being homeless, and it certainly beat living in a minivan. Now,
both of which she's done by this point.
Those are backwards. I would say something like, but it beat living in a minivan, and it certainly beat being homeless. But that's something that would happen, say, if an editor were to take a pass at this book, which I don't think happened at any point. And it's just very sloppy like that. There's a lot of these kind of just weird turns of phrase that just don't, I don't know. That just really jumped out at me as like, that's backwards. That is written backwards.
There's an awful lot of those. There are a bunch of sections that I actually had to go back and reread because the transitions and the pronouns threw me. I'll find an example, but...
He was worse than Hitler. Hell, he was worse than a schoolyard bully.
Exactly. But just as proof that this was not graced by the touch of an editor other than the ones built into Microsoft Word, we find there's at least two examples of this. Here's just one. Is the facial rec update is complete? Like,
what?
A human didn't look at this.
No.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Too busy working on book 14.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's what I kind of mean about this being a little bit of a, mid-season, let's just move the pieces around the board episode of a long-running procedural. Like the main narrative thrust of this is really not will Stuart Raimi fall in love with an AI. It's really closer to, will he get his driver's license, and will one of the other characters be revealed as a right-wing gun nut, but with some heart? And the answer to both of those is extremely yes. Actually, something, we haven't talked about this, and I want to get this out in front. Stuart Raimi is explicitly described as being on the autism spectrum. I think he's described as, quote, high-functioning autistic, unquote. It is an extremely procedural television view of being neurodivergent, which is to say he's basically Mr. Spock. He gets superpowers and is kind of hard to deal with, but his difference is treatable, quote unquote, by Shirley bringing him home-baked chocolate chip cookies. So as we can see, this is a nuanced and accurate view.
It's
Wait, no, sorry, scratch that. This is a stupid and wrong view.
And very, very offensive.
I misspoke.
Yeah. That should have definitely been mentioned because, yeah, that portrayal is played out old, tired, dumb, wrong, bad, etc., 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 but you should know that that's in this book. And probably in all other Ali Reynolds series books, because I think he's a recurring character.
I'm sure everybody in this is a recurring character. I think High Noon Enterprises, it's a little, Jay, in Star Trek, don't you think the Enterprise is really the main character?
Ooh, it's almost like
so
New York
High
itself
Noon
is a character.
Wow! The restaurant itself is quite a dish.
So before we get to high points, low points, I want to mention the one other pretty, I guess, offensive thing about this book is that every man in this book is kind of a nondescript human-shaped creature from a physical standpoint. Every woman in this book is described to the degree that could be somebody narrating a stock photo. Like, at first it was weird, and eventually it starts to get really creepy and anger-inducing. Like, I could not tell you how tall the main character is, how he's built, even in vagaries, but I could tell you the brand name of, like, at least 3 pairs of the Femme Fatale shoes, and that is really weird.
We also get chapter and verse on every car that gets driven, which is a little weird. Apparently, Jance is, a car person.
There's also lots of stuff like this. Her long dark hair was lush enough and could have been cut and styled in an attractive fashion, but she insisted on wearing it back pulled into a severe bun that would have done credit to a librarian. So, first of all, step off the librarians.
Yep.
We love them. We love you listening to us right now, librarians. And secondly, we all know that she's just waiting for the moment that the sexy music starts to play so she can shake out that bun while sparklies happen all around.
Exactly. So in addition, I'd like to say maybe one more possibly politically loaded thing about something that didn't quite set right with me about this book.
Could it be that everybody good is white and everybody who isn't?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that occurred to me too.
Yeah, so the main villains are the cartels, who are using MS-13 as muscle.
The words MS-13 or letters or whatever appear more in this than like at a Trump rally. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is extremely Lou Dobbs' view of the world, and I did not care for it even one little bit. Thank you. It really reminded me of, and this is wildly off color, and I apologize, but it has to be said, it really reminded me of the scene in the Blues Brothers where the Illinois Nazi says, "The Jew is using the black for muscle," and everybody rises up against him because that's an awful thing to say, and that's the politics of this book. The cartel is using MS-13 as muscle.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. A lot of it's, fed through the voice of characters we're supposed to not like, which I guess makes it okay. But there's still sentences like, the real secret behind Lupe's long-term staying power had to do with her ability to manage Felix's household and keep that part of his life running smoothly. Sex partners were easy to come by. Good housekeepers were not.
I mean, I think all you need to know about this book is that the big bad is named El Pescado.
For reasons.
He was the victim of an acid attack.
Yeah, so... yeah, El Pescado. All right. Anyway, look it up, folks.
It means the fish.
So, hey, Collision.
Yeah, Jay.
Guess what happens on page 328?
What happens on page 328, Jay?
You don't remember? It's not in your notes?
On page 320... actually, my notes are organized by page. I have a note for 331, but I do not have anything on 320. Is the real big fish reeled in at that point?
No, a character utters the titular line of the book.
Oh, I did notice that.
He says, it's more like a duel to the death.
I'm so angry about that.
I know that means you have to give this book an extra point.
I do. I do have to. It's my rule. I live by it, and I resent that deeply. And that raises this probably up to about a D+. Because, as you know, my rule is if a character utters the title of the book in a line of dialogue, I raise that book, my estimation of that book, by 1/2 letter grade. So we're here at a D+.
D+, all right. Let's do some high points and some low points.
You know what I can't believe is that I just finished a John le Carré book called A Legacy of Spies. I cannot believe that he didn't just shoehorn that one in. Like, come on, it's right there.
Yeah. You know why?
What we have here, George, is a real legacy of spies.
That's because he is.
And then I would have popped in the background.
A good writer.
Well, you have an extremely good and accurate point there, and I don't have a counter argument of any kind.
High points, low points. Let's do them.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
All right, so high points, low points, we try to bring a little more structure to the discussion that we've been having. So we're going to each have 2 high points, 2 low points. We like to go high, low, low, high. It's the compliment sandwich, which means there's some really bad bacon in the middle.
Zing! It's also the structure of a really sick riff.
That's true. High, low, low, high.
Yeah.
Isn't that how the Pixies wrote all their songs?
Yeah, everything they didn't rip off from Nirvana, you idiot.
I guarantee you we'll get at least one angry letter about that.
It's okay. I know that the Pixies actually were mostly ripping off Big Star. Anyway, so yeah, a high point for me. So you might think that this taut cyber thriller, to use your words, takes place mostly in the realms of law enforcement, but you're wrong. This book takes place mostly in the realms of code enforcement. A vast amount of these pages are spent around teaching Stuart to drive and then seeing if he is now a driver spoiler, yes. And an even vaster number of pages is devoted to the topic of getting buildings inspected so that they can build a low-grade server farm to fire up the old AI.
Uh-huh.
And so much of this is just A-plus suburban insanity that I actually kind of liked a lot and found very, very funny. It's all permits, building codes, building inspectors. And at one point, a bad guy disguises himself as a building inspector to gain unauthorized access to the good guy's building. But since everybody thought he was a real building inspector, Ali does what you do, which is send the building inspector supervisor a thank you email for expediting the inspection. And she gets back the following email.
Oh, I love this.
From the petty bureaucrat. Dear Ms. Reynolds, I do not appreciate being contacted during my off hours except in cases of dire emergency. This is the greatest first paragraph of Saturday email to your work email address imaginable.
I'm stealing it.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, motherfucker, if you don't want to read your work email on the weekends, there's a pretty easy solution to that. And you know what that solution is? Put the iPad down. Anyway, as I specified in our phone conversation yesterday afternoon, we are unable to complete the final inspection of your project until sometime next week. Most likely not before Thursday or Friday at the earliest. Once again, let me remind you that no equipment of any kind may be moved into the remodeled space until the open permits are cleared for occupancy. If you have any further questions in this regard, please feel free to contact me during regularly scheduled working hours, Monday through Friday. And the fact that this is a bad guy character so clearly lays out to me what J.A. Jance's day-to-day life is like. It's like, for fuck's sake, I just want to put an addition onto my garage. Like, I don't want the boat in front of the house. I want the boat just come inspect it.
Yeah, it's great. There's also like a large section that revolves around a long conversation about the difference between property crime and crime against a human and how they should be reported,
right,
and the forms that need to be filled out, etc., etc. Oh boy, yeah. It's Brazil without the satire. There is a lot of bureaucracy in this book.
Is there more than one conversation about whether it was wrong to refer to an entry without a break-in as a B&D? Why, yes, there are.
There was an E but no B.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my high point. Do you have a high point?
I do. And it's actually this. Kind of contradicts what you were saying earlier. I'd say this author definitely read a book about cryptocurrency before writing this, and is surprisingly accurate in a lot of the descriptions of how it functions technically. Like how the blockchain works, how crypto works, how money is moved from one place to another. This leads me, unfortunately, to my first low point, which is that this author definitely just wanted to copy and paste stuff from the articles about cryptocurrency that they just read, because holy shit, this reaches Jack Reacher levels of explaining things to you at times. And also, on occasion, they're just plain wrong. Like, there are some facts here that are correct, like, you know, how things move and how the blockchain works, and, you know, how it takes huge amounts of processing power to, you know, do the encryption algorithms needed to actually mine a Bitcoin, quote unquote. But then later on, they have some stuff about if the authorities got their hands on this, they could easily trace it back to so and so. And it's like, that's the entire reason Bitcoin exists, is so you can't do that.
Quick question: is this a book where some people, bedraggled, exploited, beaten, sad, emaciated people, are described as Bitcoin miners?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Is that how Bitcoin works? No, it isn't.
Yeah. Well, to it depends. There's actually a lot of gray area here.
I mean, I think that what they had in mind were the people who used to farm loot for Warcraft and then sell it to Western people.
The thing about Bitcoin mining is it's largely an autonomous operation. Once you're set up and running, keeping things cool enough is pretty much all you need to do. You don't have guys like walking in and out with pails, stopping at the company store to trade in their script for some beef jerky.
Yeah, so I think the thing that it's important to understand about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is done with computers, which don't see money like you and I do, Jay, but they see money as a long sequence of ones and zeros. And now Jay's getting his recently sharpened knives.
Yep, I am. No, I think what happened is that our author read one or two stories about these these kids from the Eastern European countries when Bitcoin first became a thing that had set up Bitcoin mining rigs like in their bedrooms and then suffered brain damage from basically what's the word I'm looking for? Heat exhaustion,
right?
Because they were running so many GPUs in their closed off bedrooms in the summer that they were like living in 140-degree temperatures. But those people were not being forced to do that.
GPUs don't see the world like you and I see the world, Jay, but instead as a long sequence of ones and zeros.
Sharpening knives, sharpening knives, sharpening knives.
I'd like to talk about a low point if I could.
Snicked.
Yeah.
to borrow a phrase from the worst bestsellers.
Hell yeah.
Snicked.
So my low point is that the middle 350 pages of this book have essentially no plot. There's a setup, all of which takes place in the first 3 chapters, which are amazing. Read them at the bookstore if you feel like it. You'll not be sorry you did.
It'll take you like 30 minutes tops. Just grab a latte, sit down on the available couch space, read those 3 chapters, then put this book right the fuck back.
Exactly. And then 350 pages happen, and then the climax, I use that term loosely, is the omniscient and powerful AI sends a text message to a DEA agent who solves everything instantly with no discernible effort or cost. Well, that's not quite true. His girlfriend gets mad at him because he had to cancel dinner.
Yep.
And this, for a supposed thriller, is incredibly dull and dissatisfying. Like, if your book is mostly people driving places and having conversations about real estate, and then there's a dude sex mockingjay DEA agent who solves it, and then your book stops, you can't call it a thriller, and this didn't thrill me.
Yeah, I didn't write it down, but I believe that very close to the end of the book, when the bad guys are apprehended, a paragraph begins with the sentence, "It was surprisingly easy."
Yeah.
Or it was shockingly easy, or something like that, when they talk about just everything coming to a head, which, you just spent 390 some odd pages upping the stakes. You shouldn't end your book with, "It was surprisingly easy."
Yeah, that I felt deflated, J.A. Jance. I felt deflated.
And it's time for another low point from me. This one's going to be another little techie, so get ready here.
Buckle in.
A big chunk of this book, especially the part you mentioned where not a lot happens and just traveling around, is because the characters are trying to find enough computing power to run this incredibly powerful AI.
Yeah.
Like, this AI before was running on like 800 computers in a dude's basement.
Yeah.
And they don't have the power to run it.
No.
They need all of this computing power. So they're flying to buy this same gentleman's computer because his mom, now that he's deceased, just wants to get rid of the junk in the basement, quote unquote.
So he was a hacker who lived in his mom's basement?
Oh, God, I didn't even notice that until just now, but you're right.
He was also, how was this serial killer a serial killer? I don't know if you picked up on this because it was a throwaway couple lines.
He cyberbullied people until they would kill themselves.
J.A. Jance, you're watching CNN. I see you.
Yeah. But, so they're running all around, getting all these computers, unhooking them, moving them back to High Dude, hooking them back up. And I think it says a lot about whether an author actually has broad knowledge of the topic that they're writing about versus whether they've just researched the very slim part that their book has to do with, when they can describe the intricacies of how a Bitcoin is mined, but don't seem to understand that cloud computing exists.
Wah, wah.
No, I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to do this, you don't need 800 computers in your basement to run an AI. That's what Google Cloud or Amazon or Akamai or any of these services that provide distributed computing services are for. It's just like, it just struck me as you saw one news article about one thing about a computer, you looked up that thing, and then you wrote this book, but you neglected to, like, look up all of the infrastructure around it. Like, obviously, you're not going to mine Bitcoin on an Amazon EC3 instance. Don't at me. I know this. I'm not an idiot. But you could definitely use a distributed computer network to run an AI. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from using a Lambda situation to do such a task. I am a nerd. Please give me a swirly. That was my low point.
J.W. Friedman stands athwart mediocre novels with inaccurate IT, and he says, stop, halt, and catch fire. I have a low point that's actually similar because this book may not understand how information technology infrastructure is best deployed and maintained, but it also doesn't understand how people do things. And as proof of this, I would like to read you the following scene, which rocketed me out of this book as though 007 had hit the "this chick is inconvenient" button in his car. I forget what movie that's actually a reference to, but
it's one of them for sure.
A minute later, Cammy dialed the phone Frigg had listed as Tracy's home number. A man answered. Cantrell residence. May I speak to Tracy? Cammy asked. She's busy cooking. Can I tell her who's calling and what this is about? It's about a homicide that took place near Morton Grove, Illinois in 1992. Hey, hun, Steve Cantrell said, you might want to take this in the bedroom. I'll finish getting dinner on the table. I challenge any and all listeners to this to dial a random number picked out of the phone book. If you don't know what that is, do not at me, just look it up. And say, I'd like to talk to someone who didn't answer the phone about a homicide that took place in 1992.
Hey, Joe. This is Otto. I'd like to talk to you about a homicide that took place near Grand Rapids, Missouri in 1982. Where'd you go?
Yeah.
That's like a Jerky Boys sketch. That's not anything that would happen in real life.
Exactly.
Sizzle chest.
Yeah. It's just...
I just made a Jerky Boys joke on our podcast.
And you did that. You did that right in the year of our Lord 2004, where we're living, I assume.
Where you're living, I don't know. I'm still back in the 90s with my Zubas and...
So we're mad at this book.
Yeah, I can't think of any other good Jerky Boys references.
Honestly,
that aren't horribly racist. Like,
I really think this one broke me, man. Like, I don't think I even can do a high point. Show me how it's done.
I have one more high point, and if you think it broke you, the narrow scope of this high point should illustrate how bad it got me.
You liked the font on the cover.
It's damn close, dude. At one point, Dave's Killer Bread is mentioned by name.
Yes!
And that's very good bread. And that's how far I had to reach to find a second high point.
I can go almost as narrow. And this is, again, this is a little bit of a thin soup, but the husband character is mostly off screen and doesn't get a whole lot to do. Because this is, it says on the book, this is an Ali Reynolds mystery, not a B. Reynolds.
But to be fair, Ali doesn't really do shit either, which kind of frustrated the hell out of me. This is mostly about Stuart.
Bup. Yeah, no, that's true. So when you're halfway through a season, or to put it slightly differently, at book 13, sometimes you have to give a supporting character a turn in the sun. Anyway, B comes in to clarificationalize matters and says the following. Okay, B said, stepping into the conversation. I think we're getting off in the woods here. I fucking wish.
Just like those unfortunate teens in the Friday the 13th novel we read recently.
Boom! Rack 'em.
All right, clothes. We're having another smack off, so make sure to add us with tweets, but only if you're from Philly and have big opinions about sports.
Bring the heat,
Which
bring
means,
the pain.
I think-
No 10-ply allowed.
I was like, which I think means Dan McQuaid, because he's the only person I think from Philly with big opinions about sports that listens to this show. So,
Hi, Dan.
hey Dan, how's it going? I'm really, really enjoying your work.
Big fan.
I guess now that we're done bragging about our semi-celebrity listeners, it's probably time for us to take a break.
Do another Remember Some Guys.
Yeah, do more Remember Guys. I like it when you remember guys.
We love it when you remember guys.
Okay, we'll be back. We're going to remember some guys.
Yeah.
Welcome back, folks. We're deep in the cyber lair here at stately Satellite Manor, but in the basement where all the magic happens. And by magic, I don't mean anything creepy. I mean, we're mining digital currency.
Oh, I thought we were going to play Magic the Gathering.
Well, yeah, and that happens sometimes, too. I do have one of those tables with the little edges so the dice don't go off, so we could do some D&D, too, if you want.
Yes.
I just got a copy of that new Lovecraft RPG, if you want to get racist.
Nice. Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't believe that that's what it says on the front cover.
Yeah, like, Lovecraft, the RPG. Get racist. Are you afraid of Italians and Jews? This may be the game for you. Anyway, seriously, though.
The scariest thing that H.P. Lovecraft can imagine, a swarthy person trying to sell him a squid.
I'm just imagining H.P. Lovecraft like getting off a dock somewhere and someone coming up to him with seafood and he just turns and runs and dives into the water.
Dog paddles away.
But it's the kind of run where it starts off with like the Flintstones sound effect
exactly.
before he starts moving.
You know, if you'd like to hear us bag on H.P. Lovecraft some more, might I recommend you support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/IDEOTVpod.
Very true. We did a whole episode just talking about how Lovecraft's books are actually pretty enjoyable, but the man himself was a racist dickbag.
And I just started listening to Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation, and there's two things that I'm finding slightly troubling about it. Number one is it's way more straight H.P. Lovecraft without the bullshit than I had expected.
Really?
Yeah. I had no idea that was what I was in for. Number two, it's read by the same person who read all the Hunger Games books, and I'm finding that insanely distracting because I have an extremely bad brain.
I will say part one gets better. Part two, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to deal with it.
Of Annihilation, or
yeah, I'm just
the
no. What you
trilogy.
just mentioned, your two issues. The first one will get better as the story progresses.
Oh, I don't mind it. It was just not at all what I expected because I'd only seen the movie. Because I'm that guy.
The movie is wickedly different. I would say it gets less Lovecraftian as things go on.
Okay.
But probably going to be the same reader throughout the whole series.
I would guess so.
Yeah.
It's just so distracting.
Have they gotten to the poem yet?
It's like seeing...
Has she read the poem? That's
No.
on the... What?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Wow, that would be very distracting.
It's like seeing Mike Wallace show up and he's like the lead in your action movie. And you're like, no, but you're the kindly newscaster. You're not the, it's very
I can't remember but the poem off the top of my head, but I can't imagine her reading those like totally foreboding words. Yeah, the creeping vines and whatnot and all that stuff.
Yeah, something like, what hand reaches for the rotten fruit that ends humanity or whatever it is.
It goes on, and it's great.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So this is a Jeff Vandermeer podcast.
I mean, I'd be down with that. I'm a huge fan. I like what he does. I think Anne Vandermeer is also wonderful, and I love the anthologies they put out.
True that. Oft recommended on this show, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. I would not recommend following them on Facebook because you will become very jealous at how much money they make from writing really fast.
Nice.
However, it's time for us to do segments. So I think we should start out.
Segments crawling, protruding into our world from realms unknown?
Yes, segments clawing at the depths, emerging from unknown Scythian darkness.
Oh, I was going to ask if the depths were Stygian.
And you know what else is underground?
Eldritch Horror?
Minds. So get ready for the segment that requires more computational power than any segment in podcasting history. Ladies and gentlemen, and people of all varieties, this is Dramatic Readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
Beep, boop. 1-1011. 101101.
Stop making fun of my clutch record.
I can't. That's my favorite Clutch song. It's good-natured jiving.
Temple of Syrinx having the big sale of the year. Okay.
100011.
All right. So I just attempted to take things down with a very serious hand movement, and I'm sure I looked ridiculous.
He basically gave me the Quiet Coyote from like preschool.
Yeah. But it was more like what a conductor would do to the audience.
Settle. Yeah.
It was bad.
Okay, anyway, let's stop getting silly and let's get dramatic.
You or me? Me. Okay. So with this scene, we've just entered the house of the now deceased former hacker who has created this crazy AI that's created a fortune in Bitcoin. And our character is discovering some things. Our main dude, Stu. Stu was somewhat confused. Wasn't this basement supposed to be full of computers? Where were they? And then, in the wall at the far end of the monitors, he spotted a nearly invisible swinging door. He walked over to it, pushed it open, and found himself in almost total darkness. After groping blindly along the wall, he finally located a light switch. Stu was well aware of the working conditions for Bitcoin miners toiling away in what had once been abandoned industrial parks in China's Sichuan province, where the presence of cheap electricity and cheap labor had made blockchain technology the only growth industry around. People there worked under terrible conditions in tumble-down buildings that looked like little more than grimy, metal-sided chicken coops. Cooling was provided by walls of exhaust fans, and lighting came from bare bulbs on wires that dangled from the ceiling. As for the blades, those are computer servers, that's described earlier, but in case you didn't know, they were usually perched on metal shelving that looked as though it were strung together with baling wire. But that was there, in China. In Santa Barbara, California, Stu could only stand and stare at what he was seeing. He had felt the same way 2 years earlier when he had first set foot inside Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral. That incredible achievement had been due to the efforts of countless laborers toiling over hundreds of years. What he saw now, in all its simple elegance, was the product of one single brilliant mind. The racks were open to the air, but not a speck of dust was visible anywhere. Everything was pristinely clean, but then, almost as an afterthought, Stu realized something else. The room was eerily silent. There may have been 800 high-end GPUs in the room, but not a single one was running. "I turned them all off," Irene Hansen said, noiselessly materializing in the open doorway behind Stu and answering a question that he had not yet asked. "My son always paid his own electric bill," she continued. "After he died, when that first power bill showed up, it was so high I almost had a heart attack. I had my yard man come down and unplug everything." Stu winced at that. He would have preferred to have had each blade powered down individually to keep from corrupting the data. Then again, if Frigg had already dispersed all the files, maybe powering down properly wasn't that big of a deal. Owen never liked me much, Irene added as an afterthought, entering the soundless room and running her finger along the dust-free surface of one of the tracks. He liked his machines better.
Jesus fucking Christ. Whew. All right.
Did you like my old lady voice, folks?
I've never heard anything better myself. All right. Frigg, Ali said, addressing the AI directly for the first time. Yes, Miss Reynolds, Frigg replied. How can I help? In terms of threat assessment, do you believe Graciela Miramar poses a danger to either yourself or to Stuart Ramey? Yes, Frigg responded. That sounds pretty definitive. It is definitive, Frigg agreed. Why? She wants to take possession of my capabilities. Mr. Ramey is an obstacle standing in the way of her achieving that goal. Does she pose threats to anyone else? To her father and his surviving son, Frigg answered. What makes you say that? Further analysis of Duarte financial transactions has revealed some additional anomalies. What kind of anomalies? The Bitcoin transfer used to hire Ron Webster to install the surveillance equipment at high noon and the transfer used to hire MS-13, presumably for the Ron Webster hit, were both made from funds attributable to Pablo Duarte, but they were not made by Pablo Duarte himself. They were made by someone pretending to be Mr. Duarte. By Graciela? Stu asked. That would be my conclusion. Due to her position within the cartel, she has a comprehensive understanding of all its financial holdings and dealings. With Pablo gone, what would have been split 4 ways can now be divided 3 ways. Wait, Stu said excitedly. Here's an idea. In the world of gangs and drug cartels, there's nothing lower than a snitch. That's why the Duartes went after that guy in Las Cruces, because he was an informant. What would happen if we convinced El Pescado that Graciela was about to turn state's evidence? There's no one on the planet who could do more damage to his organization than she could. But how do we get him to believe she's turned on him? Easy, Stu said. By bringing her to us. And how do you propose to do that? By using Frigg and me as bait. That sounds dangerous, Ali said. Not as dangerous as leaving them on the loose, Stu replied. Does this mean you were actually paying attention back when I was telling you about the bad guy's playbook? Cammy asked. Yes, I was, Stu said. The stalking phase is over. It's trying to bring Graciela Miramar within striking distance. That statement was greeted with nods of agreement all around the table. With the decision made, the mood in the room brightened, shifting from one of grim hopelessness to a shared sense of purpose.
Wasn't the Bad Guys Playbook nominated for a couple Oscars a few years ago?
You know, the script was a little bit soggy, but the performances were just to die for. And the wigs! Oh my god, the wigs.
Speaking of performances, I really enjoyed your Frigg voice. Your very robotic voice, but I have to take issue with the fact that a computer-obsessed fellow...
Beep boop.
With limited social contact, we never meet the character in this book. He's deceased by the time this starts.
Oh, Owen, the serial killer?
Owen, yeah. But I would like to think that one of the first things he would be working on is giving her a voice that is, quote-unquote, sexy as hell.
Oh, fuck, you're right. It totally would have been like, oh, hi, Owen.
Yeah, I think in a real, like, Joaquin Phoenix, her kind of situation. Yeah.
Like a lot of that, like, weird giggly hiccup, like, kind of thing.
Yeah, like the almost anime dub.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed your performance quite a bit as well.
I'm sorry, Owen. I can't Bitcoin the Bluetooth transactions because, my boobs are in the way.
Oh, no.
Is that too kawaii?
I was almost just about to correct you, and then I realized I would just out myself too much. But
Yeah, that was definitely bait. I apologize. Sorry, not sorry.
kawaii just means cute, dude.
I'm well aware of what kawaii means.
There's a word for what you're talking about. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want people to know I know it. All right, let's continue.
Look, she's an AI. She's not culturally sophisticated.
Let's move on. This is What Would They Do?
Sometimes intentions are hard to define, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
So, in What Would They Do, we try to put ourselves in the shoes of a character from the novel we just read and react to a situation that didn't occur. In this, I guess it kind of did occur, but we're several times, but we're going to put our own spin on it. And so, Collision, if you were one of the extremely white Southern people describing one of the extremely Mexican drug lords to another extremely white Southern person in this book's extremely CSI-esque tone, what phrase would you use to convey how dangerous they are?
So, I'm not really good at nutshelling it. So, I struggle with this a lot, but I came up with the following. It's them, she intoned darkly. The cartels. They used to make their money in all the usual ways: drugs, human trafficking, sex slavery, extortion, and, of course, murder arson for hire. But now, she paused, they've gone cyber. Bitcoin mines, VPNs with encrypted tunnel sockets for untraceable credit laundering, which they call Viva la Raza, which means bleaching the Bluetooth bite wound in their native tongue. To defeat them, we're going to have to take this fight. She paused grimdarkly. From the tunnels to the cloud. I call them Cartel 2.0.
Orale, let me speak on this for a sec.
I think that's roughly how that conversation went on page 113.
Yours was very much longer than mine. I just have...
Well, because I'm not good at distilling, and I try really hard not to understand the dog whistle terms that the right-wing fever swamps and CNN like to use.
I was just quoting the NWO Wolfpack's Conan, one of my favorite late 90s era Mexican wrestlers who emigrated to America. However...
Ooh, S-A-Ah! Ooh, S-A-Ah!
Here's mine. You can't even just call this guy connected. Down there... he is the law.
Whoa, that's really good. He doesn't have a compound. He has the cyber capital of Mexico.
All right, so we have time for one more game, and let's do it. Here's a rarely heard but crowd fave. Yes. Biggest surprise.
Never run empty, we're vigorous guys. As the show runs longer and bigger in size. Got them hungry minds and the rigorous eyes. Let us tell you about this fucking book's biggest surprise. Boom!
All right, so, biggest surprise of the book. Collision, you go first.
You know, I talked about this earlier. The biggest surprise to me was, like, downshifting from chapter 3, which was still well within the white-knuckle thrill ride that I was expecting and hoping for, into basically a domestic drama about nobody I knew anything about and no events I gave a shit about for the rest of the book. Like, I kept, like, for hundreds of pages, I was like, no, seriously, when do we get back to, like, actual exciting drug cartel murder, death, kill action? When can I stop hearing about fucking building inspections and renting cars and booking flights? When? And the answer is never. I can never stop hearing about that.
Yep. Now you're stuck for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But Jay, what was the biggest surprise for you?
Well, I'm not sure if we've slipped up yet or not. I feel like I probably have. But I think this biggest surprise is going to come as a surprise to maybe many of our listeners as well, given the portrayal of certain types of characters in this book. J.A. Jance is a woman.
Record scratch?
Like, this book, which is filled with some of the most sexist and misogynist things I've read in quite a while, was written by a lady who looks like a friendly grandma. And it really, really surprised me. When I got to the last page and saw the about the author photo, I had to go through and change the gender in a bunch of my notes. Because I just assumed, like anyone who was talking about, what's the...
Who's describing every woman in great detail, especially...
Highly sexualized terms. And then
there's
the phrase... what is it? There's the phrase that, like, good sex partners were easy to find. Good housekeepers were harder to find.
Right.
It's like, whoa.
Come on, John Jance. Don't be a douche. But no, it wasn't John Jance. It was, I don't know, Janice, something. Jance. And yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I do not mean to be sexist in any way. I know women are perfectly capable of misogyny as well, but just the sheer amount of it in this book, plus its bestseller status in a, let's say, a genre that tends to favor the male, pale, and frail, I was very surprised to turn to the last page and see a woman who looked like she should be offering me a delicious sweet treat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is extremely baffling. Similar to that, I would be hard-pressed if you were to ask me what the fundamental politics of this book are, because Cammie is a lifetime member of the NRA. She totes a gun and tries to train other people to do the same. It's extremely anti the bureaucratic state, we could say, with respect to the licensing bureaus, the building inspectors, and all of that.
All of that red tape, I roll.
Exactly. But the main villains in the backstory of the piece are Graciella's mother's attackers, who are 6 U.S. Air Force men who brutalize her mother and ruin her life, which kind of downstream ruins Graciella's life. And it's extremely weird because they are at one point described as like actual thugs, like using the word thug
to describe white men,
which is in a CNN context extremely unusual.
Yeah, I could describe the political tone of this book.
Okay, let's hear it.
Non-confrontationally reactionary.
Or libertarian, maybe, like small L.
Yeah. I would say this book is all about freedom, capital F, freedom.
Freedom!
But in a very non-confrontational way when it comes to race, regardless of all the side effects that, the policies that this book endorses has that relate to race.
Right.
But this book is the type of person that... this is the type of book that would tell you, I'm not racist, but only certain people should be able to buy handguns.
Yeah. I think that's an extremely accurate statement, but it's still a little... I don't know. There's still some unexpected things in this. I thought. Like, there's also a cop character, right, who's pretty good, but her backstory is that she was the recipient of major sexual abuse, or sexual harassment from her previous partner. Again, to me, surprisingly nuanced for a book that I think is mostly, like you say, non-confrontationally reactionary. Like, I don't expect the perspective of 90% of this book to be somebody who's like, oh yeah, no, sexual harassment in the workplace? Yeah, that happens all the time and it's completely unacceptable.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you don't expect it to be like the type of book that's like, let's abolish prison. And I think this
also true.
I think this gets right into our Netflix original thing that I mentioned at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
This is the type of book that desperately wants to be Narcos. So there you go.
Oh, shit. Oh shit! That's a depressingly good point.
So you ready to take a break?
I am extremely ready to take a break.
Let's do it.
Well, I've got my recommendation. Shit, it's already online.
Already online, did you say?
We've cyber-compromised the cartels. Now we've ended their menace.
Welcome.
Come on. All right, this is a Mouth Noises podcast.
All right, we're done. We're done talking about Duel to the Death.
Almost nobody died in this.
No one in this room, at least.
And
so
there was
we
no
survived.
face-to-face confrontation.
I drank a lot of beers that were stronger than I thought, but I'm still here, and I'm with you, and it's time for a segment we have a song for now.
Yes!
Recommendations.
Not only venom and spite, sometimes with sweetness and light, and we always end the episode by telling you about a thing we like. Recommendations.
All right, so recommendations, we talk about stuff that we think you should put in your head instead of J.A. Jance's Duel to the Death, which, I mean, to be honest, that's a wide scope of items.
An Ali Reynolds Mystery.
I could suggest, like, firmly inserting a Q-tip and the entire way into your ear.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't recommend that. We, as a show, do not recommend that. If you do that, that is a problem between you and the swab company of your choosing, and we have no liability whatsoever.
I guess you're right.
Never put salt in your eyes. Never insert a swab into anything.
All right. There are certain things that are off limits, but I'd say most things are better to put in your head than this book we just read. But let's talk about the things that we really suggest that you should put in your head. I was recently introduced to the work of a poet whose name is Leila Mottley. She was the Youth Poet Laureate of Oakland for 2018. And I heard a piece about her on NPR, which I admit, yes, I am a 40-year-old man. And I was just so impressed by the power of her words and her diction and just the type of stuff that she reads that she writes, that I really suggest you get out there and find some of her work. The problem is she only has one book out. It was self-published. I think they've all been purchased because I called like every bookstore in Oakland and nobody had them. However, she is pretty active on YouTube and has a lot of performances of her work. And she also, in the interview that I saw with her, said that she's a big fan of the performative side of poetry as well. So her name is Leila Mottley. That's Mottley. And she just does a lot of stuff about that Oakland, her hometown, the changing, culture there, the history of it, just kind of the revolutionary nature of where it is she grew up. And it knocked me out of my seat. I had to pull over while I was driving to listen to this.
Nice.
So yeah, check her out. Find her work. It's amazing.
And we'll link to it in the show notes. By the way, people sometimes ask, where are the show notes? If you don't see them in your podcatching app, because every app is slightly different, you can always go to the website, idontevenontotelevision.com. All the episodes are listed and available there, and they have ancillary material that doesn't always show up in your podcatcher. So there's a frequently asked question answered in one random episode. I should really update the website someday. Anyway.
Ooh, I love facts.
Yeah, exactly. A recommendation that I have, this will be exceptionally on brand. It's an article I read on the internet, except that this article is also basically a super cool reading list. It is entitled, buckle in kids, World Without Men, The Wisdom and Weirdness of Feminist Utopian Novels. It's by a woman named Lyta Gold. It's on currentaffairs.org. You'll find a link to that, again, in the show notes, which we all know how to find now. And it is basically a reading list and quick, review article about the history of feminist utopian science fiction novels.
Which, believe it or not, did not begin with a graphic novel. So, yeah.
Record scratch? No, it's 3 novels. The first of which was published in 2009. What are you even talking about, Jay?
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, no. Sorry, that was a bad joke. It is a really interesting article. Includes a couple books I've read and many, many books I have not and would now like to. So check it out if that is your style. And if it is not your style, check it out anyway. You might learn something.
Hey, and you know what? Sometimes we get letters.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
Oh yeah, dig that theme.
All right. So this one is from, I'm just going to say fake first name, fake last name. And it's entitled, Don't Delete Me. Dear esteemed gentle hosts, I just finished your Worms of Blearmouth episode. Sounds like it was painful. It helps pass the time while I'm dog sitting for a week in Berkeley Hills. Thank you for that, and for the show in general. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. It sounds like you guys are having a challenging month. I just wanted to express my appreciation of how your show has brightened my spirits during rough times, in the hopes that I can pay it forward, and unlike the movie, without Haley Joel dying from a switchblade. Wait, really? Is that a thing? I never saw Pay It Forward.
I'm going to say the same thing. I've never seen it.
Dear God, that's fucked up. I'm not going to lie. I like bad books. No, sorry. I'm not going to lie. I like to read bad books a lot. Maybe I'm a masochist, but in the age of the internet, you can always let someone do it for you. Maybe if you guys also delivered Garfield-shaped pizzas in the SF East Bay, I'd never have to leave my house. I digress. Enough schmaltz from a stranger on the internet. I'm sure you've got a lot of letters.
Yeah.
To sort through. Nub Ewok Dangerfield. So I would like to say, yeah, thank you. You know, to me, the show kind of helps bring some high points to low points when, you know, yeah, because as you correctly identified, we've been having a little bit of a tough month, but the show always puts a smile on my face. Glad it puts a smile on your face, and I'd just like to shout out our exceptionally high listeners for writing us letters.
Me too, and I'm gonna be what's the word I'm looking for? Obnoxiously sincere here.
You mean you're going to be a human fucking being.
Yeah.
Communicating like human beings do.
The past few weeks, I've dealt with a death in the family. I've dealt with all sorts of kind of crises that have nothing to do with the show. And the one thing that I've really had to look forward to is getting together with one of my favorite people in the world and talking about bad books, even though they're bad books.
They're bad books.
I gotta say, I'm glad that other people appreciate that, and I'm glad we can bring that to other people's lives, because, like, lately, this has been what I look forward to.
Yeah.
And so it means a lot to hear from other people that they're looking forward to it as well. And now I'll stop embarrassing both of us.
No, extremely same. Like, the idea that I'm going to have a little space in, you know, my week to go hang out with Jay and make fun of something and keep it light and just be goofy is something that looks like a light at the end of a tunnel, you know, or sometimes looks like a tunnel through an impenetrable mass of bullshit. And those are things that mean a fucking lot. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys like it too.
And as a podcast listener myself, I know how much it can help to kind of have that, you know, bright spot to look forward to. So it feels good to provide that to others. So thank you so much for writing in and letting us know that. Those are always my favorite compliments to get, because, you know, I really enjoy it when people are like, oh, you eviscerated that book, you tore it up, it was so funny, X joke was yada yada.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really like is the ones where it's like, you know, that really made me feel good, and I'm glad I listened to this show because it makes me feel good. That's what I like the most.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I do inevitably transition to bringing Garfield-shaped pizzas to people's houses, I hope you'll over-tip me, because I'll fucking need it.
That's a complicated cut, my friend. You're going to need a laser cutter. You're not doing that with the little pizza wheel.
Well, why can't I just do it with a big pizza, like a big cookie cutter, but huge? Just bake the pizza. Oh, well, the crust is going to suck.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you try that. See how it turns out.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll make it with a huge, 5-inch crust, and then just cut. No, that's fuck. You're right.
Look, man, I was a pizza professional for about 10 years between graduating fake college and starting my software career. That's it. It's a difficult proposition.
And the other problem here is that I don't know shit about fuck. So this business opportunity is not going to go well.
I don't know. I could make some dope pizza dough. I could toss it. I could toss it over my head. I could make a pretty good pizza. Maybe we can make something happen.
But how can we make it Garfield themed without getting sued into absolute oblivion?
That's tough because Jim Davis seems a little cranky.
Yeah. Well, he seems like a extraordinarily astute business person. Anyway, let's read another letter, shall we?
Surely.
This one's entitled All the Glory to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Hey, thanks for your podcast. Really enjoy it. Sorry if you already knew it or if hundreds of people already written to you about it, but since you recommended both Fleabag and Killing Eve in recent weeks without mentioning it, I wanted to point out that both shows were written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who also plays the main character in Fleabag, and she is great. Best wishes, first name, last name. That's a good point. I think we did know it. That's a good point. I think we did know it. We didn't call it out. But yes, for those of you who don't, wow, it's the same person. She's extremely talented.
You knew it. I didn't know it because I'm the type of person that on on video subscription packages, when it says skip to next episode, I skip right to the next episode.
Oh, there you go.
And so I had no idea, but I can now see the total similarities and appreciate it. And yeah, she's a fucking genius.
Yeah, she's real good. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, go on IDEO TV pod. P.S. By the way, is there any chance your recent live show about the Dan Brown book will be available online at some point?
I would say no. I wouldn't hold your breath. We were told we were going to get an audio copy of it. We never got it. I don't want to be annoying with the venue about it or anything like that. So
honestly, what I'd rather do is hit them up to do another live show and then put some effort into doing more live shows in different places.
Agreed. And one way you can help to make that happen.
Wait, me?
No, not you. The people at home.
Oh, thank God.
Is go to Patreon and help us out. We mentioned the address earlier, but it's patreon.com/IDEOTVpod. And you know, if you like the show, donate some money because we really want to get on the road. And we're not that huge, you know. Like we have a pretty large listening base, but not at the level. And we
love you all.
Yeah, and we love all of you and appreciate it, but not at the level where we can call up an improv and be like, "Hey, I don't even own a television. Can we get this night?" or blah blah blah. But we want to get out there and we want to do more live shows all over the country, and that's going to take some money.
Let's explain a tiny bit of why, because we have to go to those places.
We have to
money to get there. We have to
rent venues.
We have to rent venues because that's something that happens when you're not big enough to guarantee that a bunch of tickets will be sold, like, say, a good band. We have to take time off, and time off is a limited quantity in both of our lives. So to justify it, we have to be able to make it really work.
Yeah.
And we really want to, you know, if you want us to come to your town, believe me when I tell you, we want to come to your town.
And you know, I would say if you want us to come to your town and you already know of several people in your town who like the show, reach out to us because we could try to make an effort here and we could try to make that happen. We just need to know where to go. We're a guided missile. We just need to know the target, and we'll make it happen. We'll try our absolute hardest.
We're like a Bluetooth-powered, cyber-guided ordnance,
except
pointed at the Bitcoin mine under record scratch. Your house?
Except delivering munitions. We'll be delivering facial hair and jokes.
Questionable facial hair and amiable opinions about questionable books.
Yeah. So definitely check us out on Patreon. And by the way, if we didn't mention it already, if you donate at least $5 a month, you get a bonus episode. And not only do you get this month's bonus episode, you get all of the ones leading up to it, which at this point is, what, 40? 39?
We're getting real close. We've been doing the Patreon for a couple of years. That's a question that also gets asked a lot. Yes, when you subscribe, you don't just get the next one. You don't just get the last one. You get access to all of them.
Yeah, and there is a lot of content.
I mean, there's many episodes, from full-length episodes. Occasionally we do goofy interludes because those are fun. I found one actually flipping through this while Jay was talking earlier that I really want to record and release just for the super fans, because this book is bullshit.
Yeah, somebody sent us a cookbook once. It was a cookbook for bachelors. I recorded not one, not two, but 3 rap songs from that cookbook because it was written in the form of a rhyme scheme.
Yep.
So things like this, they just happen when you help us out on Patreon, so check it out.
There is no off position on the Genius Switch, my friends. So if you want to do that, you can do that at patreon.com/IDEOTVpod. If you just want to send us a normal email, get high and do so at I don't even own a television at gmail.com.
I just want to point this one thing out, too.
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts I like, about every 15, 20 minutes, they interrupt the discussion to shill a product.
Uh-huh.
You know why we don't do that?
Well, you know why we don't need to shill it? Because we sleep so comfortably, and I'm so glad you brought this up.
No. It's because of people like the ones we just mentioned who donate to us on Patreon. Because we don't want to run ads, and we don't have to run ads because there are wonderful people out there who help us keep the lights on without doing so. So just, keep that in mind next time you're listening to a show that interrupts itself to tell you about how Casper will send you a ghost mattress or whatever.
And the thing about other shows is that their hosts are not comfortable. They're not comfortable with themselves. They're not comfortable with each other. They're not comfortable with their material. And they're not comfortable in really good underpants. Not like the underpants I'm wearing.
Stop it. Said we weren't going to do this.
You know the thing about we're not like other podcasts, Jay. We have crates.
Yeah, I was just
all
going to say, it's like,
podcasts have crates, but only our podcasts have crates filled with what can only be described as booty.
Now, what if I was...
We're brought to you by Booty Crate.
What if I was really into cooking, but I didn't want to go to the grocery store every week and buy actual grocery... All right, we'll stop this right now.
So what you need is...
No, we'll stop this right now. Thank you to those of you who support us on Patreon. We're also on Twitter. We're on Facebook. You can email us at idon'tevenownthetelevision@gmail.com. Anything else?
When I'm hungry, Jay...
Stop it. You know what? Eat the crab.
$5 footlong of crab.